Imagine being sealed inside a steel tube deep beneath the ocean's surface. No windows, no fresh air, no sunrise or sunset, just you and 100 other souls, working, eating, and sleeping within inches of each other for months at a time. The pressure of thousands of tons of seawater pressing against the hull. The knowledge that the surface world continues without you, while you remain hidden in the silent depths. This is not science fiction. This is the daily reality for submarine crews who serve as our nation's silent guardians beneath the waves. Today, we're diving deep into the extraordinary world of submarine life, exploring how these brave men and women eat, sleep, and maintain their sanity while living in one of the most isolated environments humans have ever created. Life in a steel tube. The modern submarine is a marvel of engineering, but it was never designed with human comfort in mind. Every cubic inch serves a purpose, and that purpose is rarely the comfort of the crew. A typical nuclear submarine stretches the length of a football field, yet inside, the living space makes a studio apartment look spacious. Sailors often describe it as living inside a crowded closet that's always in motion. Commander James Williams, a 30-year veteran of submarine service, puts it bluntly, "You adapt to the space because the space will never adapt to you." For the newcomer, the first impression is often overwhelming. Pipes and cables run along every surface. Equipment fills every corner. The passageways are so narrow that crew members must turn sideways to pass each other. The nuclear reactor that powers the vessel requires constant monitoring. Weapon systems stand ready. Communication equipment maintains the vessel's tenuous link to command. And somewhere in between all this vital equipment, the crew must find space to live. Living quarters are perhaps the most striking example of space efficiency. Most enlisted crew members hot bunk, meaning 3 sailors share 2 beds, rotating according to their watch schedule. When one sailor finishes a shift and needs rest, another rises to begin work, freeing up the bunk. Personal space is limited to a small locker roughly the size of a gym bag. Inside, sailors store everything they'll need for months at sea. Photos of loved ones, a few books, perhaps a small electronic device loaded with music or movies. For these brave men and women, privacy becomes a concept rather than a reality. Even the highest-ranking officers have cabins barely larger than a small closet. Yet, from this extreme limitation comes extraordinary adaptation. Submariners develop what they call submarine ears, the ability to tune out the constant background noise of machinery while remaining alert to any sound that signals a potential problem. They learn to move through the narrow passageways with a grace that would impress a dancer, sidestepping equipment and each other in a complex choreography that becomes second nature. Most impressively, they forge bonds of brotherhood and sisterhood that few on the surface will ever experience. When your survival depends on every person doing their job perfectly, trust reaches new depths. The submarine environment demands constant awareness. Every crew member must know the location of emergency equipment, escape hatches, and firefighting gear. Naval tradition holds that a qualified submariner should be able to find any valve on the boat blindfolded, a skill that could save lives in an emergency. If you've ever experienced close quarters living, type tight space in the comments below and share how you adapted. The rhythm of submarine life. Without the sun to mark the passing of days, submarine life operates on an artificial rhythm all its own. The typical submarine day is divided into 3 8-hour shifts, creating a perpetual cycle of activity that never ceases. At any given moment, 1/3 of the crew is on watch, monitoring the vessel's systems. Another third performs maintenance, training, or other duties. The final third rests, or attempts to. The lights never completely go out on a submarine. Instead, they shift from day mode to a dimmer night mode, providing just enough illumination for safe movement while signaling to the body that it's time for sleep. This artificial day-night cycle helps maintain the crew's circadian rhythms, preventing the timelessness that could otherwise lead to serious psychological distress. But it's an imperfect solution. Many submariners report sleep difficulties both during and after deployments. The submarine's clock is set to the time zone of its home port, regardless of the vessel's actual location. This creates an odd disjunction. It might be morning on the submarine while the vessel is sailing beneath a midnight ocean halfway around the world. Chief Petty Officer Sarah Donovan explains, "Your body eventually adapts to the submarine's time, but that first week is brutal, like having perpetual jet lag while working complex systems that could kill you if you make a mistake." The days of the week maintain special significance. Sunday is traditionally a day of lighter duties when possible. Religious services are held for those who wish to attend. Special meals might be served. These small nods to surface traditions help maintain a sense of normalcy in an environment that is anything but normal. The work schedule aboard submarines follows a precise rhythm that might seem foreign to those accustomed to a standard 9-to-5 job. Watch rotations ensure that critical systems are monitored continuously. Each watch station has specific responsibilities that must be executed perfectly. Navigation teams track the submarine's position with astonishing precision, despite being unable to use GPS while submerged. Engineering teams monitor the nuclear reactor that powers the vessel, ensuring it operates safely and efficiently. Sonar operators maintain a constant listen for other vessels, becoming the submarine's eyes in the underwater darkness. Between watches, crew members attend to maintenance tasks, participate in drills, and complete required training. A submarine is never truly at rest. There's always something that needs attention, a system to maintain, or a skill to perfect. The schedule keeps you grounded, explains Petty Officer James Martinez. When you can't see the sun rise or set, when there's no weather, no seasons, the routine becomes your anchor to reality. This strict routine extends to personal maintenance as well. Shower time is strictly limited to conserve fresh water, often just 2 minutes per sailor, 2 or 3 times per week. Laundry runs on a tight schedule, with each division assigned specific days for their washing needs. Even meals follow a structured pattern, with specific hours for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and mid-rats. Midnight rations for those standing the night watch. Miss your designated mealtime, and you might go hungry until the next one. Feeding the silent service. In the cramped confines of a submarine, food takes on significance far beyond mere sustenance. It becomes a cornerstone of morale, a reminder of home, and a marker of time's passage. A modern nuclear submarine embarks with enough food to feed its crew for 90 days. The galleys, naval kitchens, operate around the clock, serving 4 meals daily to accommodate the rotating shifts. The smells of cooking waft through the entire vessel, becoming part of the submarine's sensory landscape. The cooks are the most important people on the boat, says Lieutenant Commander Thomas Chen. A good meal can make the difference between a crew that performs and a crew that just endures. Submarine cuisine has come a long way from the hardtack and salt pork of early undersea vessels. Today's submarine culinary specialists, the Navy's term for cooks, train extensively before taking responsibility for feeding a crew beneath the waves. Fresh fruits, vegetables, and dairy products are prioritized in the early weeks of a deployment. As these items dwindle, the menu shifts to frozen, canned, and dehydrated options. Bread is baked daily, filling the vessel with one of the most comforting aromas known to humankind. Special occasions merit special meals. Crossing the equator, completing a mission milestone, or celebrating holidays brings out the culinary team's creativity. These meals become events that the entire crew anticipates, providing psychological punctuation to what might otherwise be an undifferentiated stretch of time. Space constraints mean that food storage requires extraordinary planning. Every cubic inch matters. Before departure, packaging is often removed to maximize storage capacity. Eggs are cracked into containers rather than stored in shells. Meat is vacuum sealed to minimize volume. The submarine's ability to create fresh water through desalination supports this culinary operation, providing the gallons needed for cooking, cleaning, and drinking. The loading of provisions before deployment is a major operation in itself. The entire crew forms a human chain, passing boxes of supplies hand to hand from the dock into the submarine. This stores load can take an entire day, with tons of provisions carefully packed into every available storage space. Inventory management becomes a critical skill, with culinary specialists tracking every item to ensure nothing runs out before the end of deployment. Menus are planned weeks in advance, taking into account the shelf life of various ingredients and the need to maintain variety. Submarine ice cream, a special treat, is famous throughout the Navy. Made with a higher fat content than standard ice cream, it's served as a morale booster during particularly challenging periods of deployment. You'd be surprised how important a scoop of ice cream becomes when you've been underwater for 2 months, explains Senior Chief Culinary Specialist Robert Johnson. I've seen tough sailors get misty-eyed over dessert. Support us on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Your contributions help us create more in-depth documentaries about military life and technology. Plus, Patreon members get exclusive behind-the-scenes content and early access to our videos. Join our community today. The psychological challenge. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of submarine service isn't the technology or the physical adaptation. It's the psychological resilience required to thrive in total isolation. The mind is the true battleground of submarine service, explains Dr. Eleanor Richards, a naval psychologist who specializes in isolated environments. These crews face challenges that even astronauts don't experience. At least astronauts can see the stars. Submarine crews undergo extensive psychological screening before assignment, filtering out those who might struggle with confined spaces or extended isolation. But even the most well-suited individuals face significant challenges. Communication with home, that vital psychological lifeline, is severely limited. While surfaced or at periscope depth, submarines can receive brief, one-way email messages from family members. These messages are screened for potentially distressing content that might impact a sailor's performance, but during critical missions, even this limited connection to home may be severed. Operational security demands radio silence, creating periods of complete isolation that may last weeks. To counter the psychological effects of isolation, submarine crews develop remarkable coping mechanisms. Humor becomes a critical safety valve, with submariners famous for developing a distinctive brand of wit that helps diffuse tension. Structured routines provide psychological stability. Regular drills, training sessions, cleaning duties, and recreation periods create a predictable framework that helps combat the timelessness of the environment. The cramped quarters that might seem like a disadvantage actually foster intense social bonds that help sustain morale. Submariners often describe their crews as the tightest-knit communities they've ever experienced. "You know everything about each other," says Petty Officer First Class Miguel Hernandez. "Every habit, every story, every quirk, you can anticipate what your crewmates will say before they say it. It's annoying sometimes, but it creates a bond you can't explain to outsiders." This social cohesion becomes a psychological shield against isolation's effects. When the outside world fades into abstraction, the community within the submarine becomes increasingly real and important. Recreation takes creative forms within the space constraints. Movie nights are popular, with films projected onto any available flat surface. Card games, chess tournaments, and trivia competitions help pass the time during off-duty hours. Physical fitness, vital for both physical and mental health, adapts to the limited space. Some submarines include small exercise areas with compact equipment designed to operate quietly, an essential consideration when stealth is the vessel's primary defense. Submariners report a unique psychological phenomenon they call going deep, a state where the outside world begins to feel less real than the submarine environment. Letters from home describe events that seem distant and abstract. News from the surface world loses its emotional impact. The submarine becomes the primary reality. "I remember getting a letter about a major political scandal," recalls retired Commander William Peterson. "It seemed like news from another planet. All that mattered was what was happening inside our hull." Leadership becomes crucial in this environment. Submarine commanders must balance the mission's demands with the crew's psychological well-being. The best officers recognize warning signs of stress and intervene before small issues grow into problems that could compromise safety or performance. Traditions and rituals take on heightened importance, providing psychological anchors in the timeless environment. The ceremony marking a sailor's qualification as a submariner, earning their dolphin's insignia, becomes a profound rite of passage. The tradition of manning the rails when returning to port acknowledges the completion of a challenging journey. Unlike surface vessels, submarines maintain an egalitarian atmosphere despite the military hierarchy. When survival depends on every person doing their job perfectly, mutual respect becomes essential. Officers and enlisted personnel develop working relationships based on competence rather than rank alone. Environmental management. The submarine environment presents unique challenges beyond isolation. Creating a livable atmosphere within a sealed metal tube requires extraordinary engineering. The air itself must be manufactured and maintained. Nuclear submarines generate oxygen through electrolysis, splitting water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is released into the vessel's atmosphere, while the hydrogen is discharged outside. Carbon dioxide, the waste product of respiration, must be continuously removed. Specialized scrubbers capture this gas, preventing it from reaching levels that could cause headaches, confusion, or eventually death. The atmosphere's composition is constantly monitored. Sensors throughout the vessel track oxygen, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and other gases. Any deviation prompts immediate action. We're essentially living inside a complex life support system, explains Chief Engineer Lisa Rodriguez. The submarine isn't just a vessel, it's an artificial biosphere that keeps us alive. Temperature and humidity control presents another challenge. Nuclear reactors generate significant heat, which must be managed. Cooling systems maintain a constant temperature throughout the vessel, typically cooler than most would find comfortable on land. It's always cold on a submarine, notes Petty Officer Samuel Washington. You get used to wearing layers. The joke is that you don't truly understand cold until you've stood watch in the sonar room at 3 in the morning. Humidity from cooking, showering, and human respiration must be removed to prevent condensation that could damage sensitive equipment or promote mold growth. Dehumidifiers work constantly, creating an atmosphere that many describe as perpetually stuffy. Water management becomes a study in conservation. While nuclear submarines can generate fresh water through desalination, the process is energy-intensive. Every drop is precious. Shower time is strictly limited, often just 2 minutes, twice a week. Laundry runs on tight schedules. Even toothbrushing protocols emphasize water conservation. The recycling of water extends to remarkable degrees. Water from sinks and showers is collected, treated, and reused. Nothing is wasted in this closed system where resources cannot be replenished until the next port call. Waste management presents perhaps the most delicate challenge. Human waste is collected in specialized systems that compress, treat, and store it until it can be discharged at appropriate depths. Solid trash is carefully sorted, some burned in incinerators, some compressed for storage, some discharged when conditions permit. It's not glamorous, but proper waste management is essential, explains Senior Chief Jonathan Miller. One failure in these systems would make the boat uninhabitable very quickly. Even sound becomes an environmental factor requiring management. The submarine's primary defense is silence, the ability to remain undetected beneath the waves. Equipment is mounted on noise-dampening fixtures. Crew members wear soft-soled shoes. Doors are fitted with special latches to prevent slamming. The result is a vessel that can move through the depths more quietly than the ambient noise of the ocean itself, a remarkable achievement of engineering and human discipline. The return to surface life. After months in the artificial environment of a submarine, returning to the surface world presents its own unique challenges. The sensory experience can be overwhelming. Submariners often report being temporarily stunned by the brightness of natural sunlight, the vastness of open spaces, and the cacophony of surface sounds after months in the submarine's controlled acoustic environment. The world seems too big at first, describes former submarine officer Rebecca Taylor. Too bright, too loud, too unpredictable. It takes time for your senses to recalibrate. Family reintegration requires patience and understanding on all sides. Spouses and children have developed their own routines during the submariner's absence. Roles and responsibilities have shifted. Merging these separate lives back into a cohesive family unit doesn't happen automatically. Many submariners report a period of adjustment lasting weeks or even months. Sleep patterns gradually realign with natural day-night cycles. The hypervigilance developed in the submarine environment slowly relaxes. The intense focus on the immediate community expands to include wider social connections. Yet many carry their submarine experience with them for life. The resourcefulness, resilience, and adaptability developed beneath the waves serve them well on the surface. The bonds formed with fellow crew members often last a lifetime. Once a submariner, always a submariner, says retired Captain William Foster. It changes you in ways that stay with you forever. You learn what's truly essential, both for survival and for a meaningful life. Everything else is just extra. The Navy recognizes the unique challenges of reintegration and has developed support programs specifically for submarine crews and their families. These programs begin before deployment and continue through the return phase, providing resources and guidance to ease the transition. The submarine family support groups play a crucial role, bringing together families experiencing the same challenges. These communities provide practical assistance, emotional support, and a valuable sense of shared experience. Having someone who understands the unique stresses of submarine life makes all the difference, explains military family counselor Maria Gonzalez. These families face challenges that others simply can't comprehend. The submarine service maintains some of the military's highest retention rates despite, or perhaps because of, its challenges. Many submariners choose to make a career of this demanding service, finding in it a purpose and community that civilian life rarely matches. There's nothing like knowing you're part of something vital, something few people could do, explains Senior Chief Thomas Wilson, a 22-year veteran. We're defending our nation from beneath the waves, never seeking recognition, taking pride in the job itself. That kind of purpose stays with you. The evolution of submarine isolation. The isolation experience of today's submariners stands in stark contrast to that of their predecessors. The evolution of submarine technology has fundamentally changed the isolation equation. Early submarines offered almost unimaginably harsh conditions. World War II-era vessels remained submerged for hours rather than months, surfacing regularly to run diesel engines that recharged their batteries. These brief surfacing periods provided crew members with fresh air, glimpses of the sky, and momentary connections to the wider world. The advent of nuclear power in the 1950s revolutionized submarine operations. Suddenly, vessels could remain submerged indefinitely, limited only by food supplies and human endurance. The USS Triton made history in 1960 by circumnavigating the globe entirely underwater, remaining submerged for 60 days. This technological leap created new psychological challenges. Isolation periods stretched from days to months. Submarine medicine and psychology became specialized fields focused on maintaining crew health during these extended deployments. The Cold War era saw the development of ballistic missile submarines, vessels designed to remain undetected for months while carrying nuclear weapons. These boomers established new standards for isolation, conducting deterrent patrols lasting 70 to 90 days completely submerged. Today's ballistic missile submarines, like the Ohio-class vessels, represent the pinnacle of isolation technology. Their missions require absolute stealth, meaning minimal communication with the surface world. Their crews experience some of the longest planned isolation periods in military operations. The mission demands it, explains retired Commander Elizabeth Chen. These vessels carry a significant portion of our nuclear deterrent. They must remain undetected to fulfill their role. That means isolation beyond what most people can imagine. The future may bring new developments. Autonomous systems and advanced robotics might reduce crew sizes, changing social dynamics. Improved communication technologies might provide better connection to home without compromising security. But the fundamental reality of submarine isolation, living in a sealed environment beneath the waves, will remain. What has remained constant throughout this evolution is the extraordinary human adaptation to these challenging conditions. From the crude submarines of World War I to today's nuclear-powered vessels, submariners have demonstrated remarkable resilience. People are sometimes surprised that we volunteer for this duty, says Lieutenant Commander Rachel Stevens. But there's something profound about testing yourself against such an extreme environment. You discover capacities you never knew you had. The strategic importance. Beyond the human story lies the strategic significance of submarine operations. The submarine force serves as a cornerstone of national defense, operating in ways that surface vessels cannot. The stealth capability of submarines allows them to gather intelligence in sensitive areas, monitor potential adversary activities, and maintain a presence without escalating tensions. Their ability to operate undetected makes them the ultimate strategic asset, present but invisible. Ballistic missile submarines form a critical leg of the nuclear triad, providing an assured second strike capability that serves as a powerful deterrent. Their ability to remain hidden makes them virtually invulnerable, ensuring that potential adversaries can never eliminate our nation's ability to respond to an attack. Attack submarines protect carrier groups, interdict enemy shipping, and project power far from our shores. Their versatility makes them invaluable assets in both wartime and peacetime operations. The submarine force gives national leadership options they wouldn't otherwise have, explains defense analyst Dr. Jonathan Reynolds. The ability to place a capable warship with highly trained personnel anywhere in the world's oceans without anyone knowing it's there, that's a strategic advantage beyond price. This strategic significance adds purpose to the submarine crew's sacrifice. The isolation, the cramped conditions, the technical challenges, all serve a vital national mission. Knowing why you're doing it makes all the difference, says Commander Maria Rodriguez. Every member of my crew understands that what we do matters, that our nation depends on us doing our job perfectly even when no one is watching. That knowledge sustains us through the challenges. The submarine service has evolved into one of the most selective communities in the military. The technical complexity of modern submarines demands highly trained personnel capable of operating sophisticated systems with minimal outside support. These crews represent the best of what our nation produces, notes Admiral James Harrison. Their combination of technical expertise, psychological resilience, and absolute commitment to excellence makes them unique not just within the military, but within our society as a whole. The submarine service represents one of humanity's most remarkable adaptations, not just technological, but psychological and social. These silent sentinels who patrol the depths demonstrate the extraordinary capacity of human beings to thrive in environments for which evolution never prepared us. The next time you enjoy an open sky, a long walk, or a private moment, spare a thought for those serving beneath the waves, protecting our nation from the silent depths. They represent the best of what we can be, resourceful, resilient, and capable of finding community even in the most isolated conditions imaginable. If you found this glimpse into submarine life fascinating, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more documentaries about military life and technology. And we always appreciate hearing your thoughts in the comments below.